Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Two Uncles Football Show. Let's just dive into it, man. Let's just dive into what happened last weekend. So let's start with the Manchester Derby
All right.
first.
First, do you want to introduce yourself at least?
Oh, how many episodes did we have? Like this is the 19th one. Okay, I'll introduce.
Yes. But we have new followers every day, every week. So, we should introduce ourselves.
Oh yeah, of course. I always forget that. So hi everyone, this is Akhil. You can call me Gulu. 30 years into football and a big United fan, and that's pretty much about it.
Hi, I'm Nav. I'm the other half of this Two Uncles show. Also a hopeless football fan for 30 years, hopelessly addicted, I should say. But yeah, let's get into it. What do you want to start with, Gulu?
The big game last weekend, man.
Oh, yeah, there was a big game last weekend.
Yeah, I think so. At least the first 45 minutes were pretty cool.
Yeah. And of course, we're talking about the Manchester Derby. So, interesting game. Do you want to go first, or should I give my impressions and as a
Yeah,
neutral?
sure. So I'll put it this way. The one thing I got right was the score prediction.
That is true. I think I got that right too. I think if viewers will recall that last time we both agreed on a 3-1 scoreline.
Exactly,
Um,
exactly.
so yeah, it was quite an interesting game. Um, the game plans from the beginning, I think, were pretty set. You could see what each team. I mean, with Manchester City, I guess there's no mystery about how they're going to play, especially at home.
Yep,
United, I think, played typically how they've played under Ten Hag in these big games.
yep,
Also, specifically against City, I think, where they were very well organized and looking for the opportunities for Bruno or someone from the deep to like spray the ball to the runners. And they were, I think City started really fast, but then United sprung the trap. Within I think the first 9 minutes or so,
yep.
immediately, like Rashford scored, and it was like a unusual goal, like in the sense that Rashford will typically. I don't think he really does the long range efforts. And also, like the way he hit the ball, it was like literally there was only one place that ball could go. He didn't try to go in the far corner, just boom, and it kind of came somewhat against the run of play, but also I think, like, the game plan was that way, right? It's
The
like, hey,
game
we're
plan
going
was that way.
to
Yeah.
invite the pressure onto us, and the minute we get to strike, we're going to try to maximize our opportunities. So great. 1-0. But to be honest, I think as a neutral, I was still thinking that, yeah, this is not a safe scoreline, right? Like 1-0, you're not going to be able to defend like this for another 75 minutes. Um, so hopefully I guess the idea was you'd get more opportunities to exploit the break. But as it turned out, I think then City basically just sort of started swarming United with their possession. They really didn't do much apart from the possession, I think, in the first half.
Yep.
uh, but then second half again started the same way. City on the front foot, and then it took, yeah, another kind of almost equally spectacular goal from Phil Foden
Yep.
to tie it up. And at that point, I think it was like, all right, if United have to win this, it's going to be a pretty,
Yeah.
big result.
Yeah.
Like, the way the sort of possession stats and all were going.
Yeah.
And the more likelier result was that the City would build on this and just kind of close the game out, right? Which they basically did.
Did and
So, yeah, I mean, I think it kind of pretty much went uh, as expected. I don't think I was surprised by anything either
and
team did.
as a United fan, I wouldn't say, yeah, there were certain aspects of the game or certain sections of the game I would say I was a bit disappointed. But to your point, right? I mean, first of all, I think a point at Etihad would have been great. I was that
Mhm. And that was not beyond United.
that was not beyond, it was possible, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Taking a page from the Anfield chapter when they got a point at Anfield, I thought that, yeah, you know what, they might just get away with this. But second half, actually, one thing which was very clear that Guardiola was very, very clearly pushing Foden, right? And he was going to be the something. He's going to create something there. It was absolutely clear. And on that side, who was there? Lindelof. And I could see Lindelof was getting tired. I said, why? And then actually Dalot was switched because Dalot, by the way, just a quick mention about Dalot. Wonderful, wonderful transformation of a player, man. I mean, I was frustrated with him earlier on in the season, but what I'm seeing last, let's say maybe 10 games, fantastic.
Yeah.
So he moved there, but I think it was too late,
Hmm.
basically. That was right after that equalizer from Foden. And then Foden switched back again where Lindelof was there. So Guardiola was absolutely playing. He could see the weak link there in the
Yeah.
defense.
Yeah.
Boom, done. The second goal came through, and the third one was a mistake by Amrabat. That was very
Hmm.
clear.
Yeah.
My takeaways on this one, if I look at it, uh, we will talk about Ten Hag, of course. We're going to spend few minutes talking about him. But overall, I do not think it was like the shittiest performance by United. Oh, what are you doing? There was a game plan that was very, very clear. They have done it at Anfield. They could have got a point here. By no means they were anybody was expecting United just to go through and
Hmm.
start attacking. It was
Yeah.
going to be that game, sit back
Mhm.
counter, and that is what they played to. With City is difficult, so that
Yeah.
it's
I
not
think
good enough.
Dalot, I would agree. I think Dalot was probably the best United player. I would go
Yeah.
so far as to say, well, Onana did a lot of good stuff too in that game, right?
Oh,
He was
I
like
should be.
solid, right?
Yeah.
Onana was super solid. And I think both of them were probably the best two United players on the day. Rashford, again, it's strange. Like, I think he had a spectacular moment and then he was pretty much anonymous for the
Yeah.
rest of the game, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I get that. Okay, maybe you're kind of the person who's just kind of trying to stay in the
Yes.
space when that kind
Yeah.
of ball comes, but I mean, he was a passenger, right? Like for most of the game.
But there were two chances also in the first half after the first goal. There were two chances that I think Garnacho was there. He should have
Mm-hmm.
passed the ball or something like that. And then I
Hmm.
think there was one more.
Yeah.
And I think things would have been a bit different if they had taken those chances.
Yeah, but that's the thing with City, right? When you play City, like you get those like two or three chances,
You
you
have to.
have to maximize. Like you're not going to get many chances, right? So,
Exactly.
kind
Exactly.
of the bar is like super high as a forward when you're playing City and you get those chances, right? Even like other teams also try to do similar things, and then ultimately it's like how clinical you are and how much you can like utilize those chances to put City on the back foot. It's very difficult to put City on the back foot, right? I don't think anybody can legitimately do it. Although we'll find out this weekend against Liverpool, which we will come to later. But yeah, I mean, I think it was as expected. United could have gotten a point, but c'est la vie, right? That's life.
Yep.
And the danger now, I think, is United is sort of a little bit of adrift in terms of like the top four or top five, depending on the Champions League format and if
Yep.
England gets a fifth team. So I think there is a danger of like sort of that gap widening. I
Yeah.
think already it's about 11 points to Villa, and it's what is it, like 6 points to Spurs, who have a game in hand.
Yep.
So yeah, it'll take some doing, I think, to pull both the teams back, or it's not. Villa and Spurs could also sort of have a run of 2-3 bad results, and then again, it's
Yep.
everybody's back in it. But it's going to
And
be tough.
and speaking of top four, my friend, I really enjoyed your club and how you got back against Crystal Palace, man.
Yeah, I think that was a good win, 3-1. Again, Spurs have that habit of like going 1-0 down. Like they try to dominate the first half. If it doesn't quite click or they don't score, then inevitably you leak a goal, because I think our defense has not been that great after that initial Van de Ven injury and like Romero suspension. I think the first 10, 12 games, it was awesome. I think the defense was great. The high line worked perfectly. After that, it's been very leaky, to be honest, right? So it's very difficult. Um, I think, especially when you have that low block that you face, other teams do the low block. Spurs sometimes struggle to break through that, and then on top of that, you go a goal down. It's hard. The when the comeback wins happen, it's like super exciting. Everybody has a great time, and it's like swashbuckling 3 points gained. But again, it's kind of like unsustainable, I think, like to keep doing that game after game after game. And admittedly, I think this is still a work in progress, right? So
Feeling
we'll
confident
take
about
the good results and the swashbuckling results when we can.
feeling
Uh,
confident about top four.
I think Villa looks definitely more secure in terms of their defense. I will say, right? I think
Ah,
organization wise, they definitely are more secure. They have a great offside trap. I think somebody was saying that this is the best offside
best
trap
one.
in Europe or
Best one.
something.
Yeah.
Um, this week, again, we'll come to that later maybe, but Villa play Spurs. So that will be a huge 6-pointer, right? If we win it, I think I will be more optimistic about our chances. But if we don't win it, on the flip side, I think we'll have to hope for that fifth Champions League place in order to like kind of get in. That's my
I,
I guess my opinion on it right now.
my take on this after watching Spurs almost, I mean, I've missed few games, but I've seen Spurs this season. My take is that Spurs has a better chance of getting
Mhm.
that versus Villa.
Yeah,
And yeah, I mean, again, like we spoke, I think last one or
Mhm.
the episode before, where we were talking about some luck, injury
Yeah,
free. The key players should be there.
yeah.
Madison is back, Udogi is back. Richarlison, he's injured, right?
Richarlison is injured.
Richarlison is
Porro is back this week, so that's
exactly.
good.
So that's
And
good.
the reason I mentioned the defense is like really quickly also, like I just keep remembering that I think it was a Fergie quote, right? About like, attack wins matches and defense wins titles.
There you go.
So
Yeah.
that's the
Defense,
analogy, right? Like they're in that
defense.
prime position, and if you're well organized and you have a good defense, and their attack is not bad, right? Ollie Watkins is also on fire.
Yeah,
So it is very game to game. And looking at the schedule, I think both teams have roughly the same schedule. In fact,
yeah,
both teams play Arsenal, City, and Liverpool. So again, it's like depend on the outcome of those games for each team, right?
yeah.
Like maybe
So,
Villa will get 7 points out of those games or 5 points out of those games, and Spurs only get like 3 points, three draws, right? That itself also could make a difference. So yeah, it'll be exciting. I think it's going to be fun. The title race is also super fun. Arsenal again, 6-0
yeah.
against Sheffield United. I
Uh,
think me, as well as most of the Sheffield United fans, thought the game was over after like 15 minutes and 3-0 down. So that was a fun one to watch, I guess, just the goals going. But after a while, I just felt, sorry for Sheffield United.
yeah.
After a while, I'm like, oh my
It's
God, guys, this must be horrible to like kind of endure this week after week after week.
I was late for that one, and I was getting some work done, and I said, okay, you know what? Let me just switch it on. And before that, I just said, oh, let me see which channel is it coming on.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's 3-0. Forget it. I'm not putting it on now.
Yeah, same.
Like it was done, man. It was like
I was
first.
like watching it, and here obviously in the US, it's in the middle of the day, right on the West Coast,
Yeah.
in California. So I was like, all right, done, back to work. It's like nothing to see here. But yeah,
Uh,
the thing that got me thinking actually, like crazy thought, right? Sheffield United, it's not like it won't be inconceivable if they get onto their third manager of the season. And if they do get to that third manager of the season, who could it be? Could it be Frank Lampard? And because Frank Lampard has had that like firefighting, those jobs, right? He did it at Everton, he did it at Chelsea. So has Frank Lampard become the new Sam Allardyce? like like
I think oh, interesting actually. We have to talk a little bit about the managerial go around or merry-go-round
yeah.
a bit. But I didn't think about, I forgot that Lampard is out of job, right?
Yeah,
He's
exactly. And he's like
for
the modern like Allardyce. Back in like,
yeah,
10
yeah,
years ago,
yeah.
you had like Allardyce, or even 5 years ago, Allardyce, Neil
Yes.
Warnock, Harry Red, like, one of these
Or
guys. So this is the new generation of like, you
or
got your
Ole
Frank Lampard and stuff.
or Ole Gunnar going to Bayern or somewhere
Yeah,
else. So,
exactly. Right. So this is the new, Roy Keane.
Roy
You
Keane,
showed me that
yeah.
Instagram post of, it was pretty funny, of
He will.
Keane and
Yeah,
Ole. advertising themselves as available managers if some clubs need them.
Keen is going to fix some things,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
yeah. But
But
I think one
no, they,
guy's job, one guy whose job is super safe is Mikel Arteta. You got to hand it to them.
absolutely.
Like they've been like
And
spectacular. Another 6-0 win, and I think their last another stat I heard. Apparently, in their last 5 games, they are like 31-3 in terms of like goals for and goals against, or
Jesus,
something ridiculous. Or last six
no,
games or 7 games, something. It's ridiculous.
yeah.
So
We know who's winning if it comes to goal difference, if the title comes down to that.
yeah, and I think that's the
Clearly,
thing. I think Liverpool had that goal difference, and just in the last like 3 or 4 weeks, Arsenal has just upped their goal difference, and that's like an extra point almost.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And speaking of Liverpool, then, I mean, come on. I was like, oh, this is going to get things, more interesting in the top, in a title race, basically. But man, it was like almost the last kick of the game,
mhm. Yep.
or last like a second or 2 seconds that they
Yeah.
got those 3 points. I mean,
Yeah.
when you grind out results like these, it's title credentials, man.
Yeah, and Liverpool is like they're going to the edge because they've been grinding out these like last minute
Yeah,
wins or late wins.
exactly.
But then they also suffered like a late loss against Spurs, where like Spurs eked out that like
Yeah.
win earlier in the season when
Rematch.
Joel.
Rematch.
Of course,
Rematch.
there was a lot of other
There
controversy
has
over
to be a
there.
rematch.
There has to be a rematch, exactly.
Exactly.
But yeah, any other? I don't know. I'm trying to look at the scores. Not other. Well, Chelsea, I think, like in terms of like remarkable results and managers under pressure, 2-2 against Brentford, which basically drops them to the bottom half of the table. And there were some clips going around on X and Reddit and stuff about Chelsea fans showing their displeasure against both Bowley and Pochettino. So I think they've finally maybe lost their patience with Poch. And he's 2 points behind Wolves now, right? So after spending $1 billion on guys you didn't really hear about or know about, they're kind of little wobbly again. Bottom half of the table might not end well for them.
Question is actually, should the fans get pissed at the manager or the management? That's a
Well,
big
if they get pissed off at the manager and he gets fired again, Frank Lampard is available. So
or
so that's the good
Roy
news.
Odegaard.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
Oh man, but yeah, it's
Uh,
gonna be a thrilling
so
ride.
Chelsea, yeah, Chelsea, and very quickly finishing up on last week, David Moyes safe, I guess for
I
now.
think so. I think they've
Yeah,
like they had that little blip,
yeah,
but again, last week what they had a 3-1 win over
one
Everton
win,
against
yeah,
his forward team. They had like another, I think, big win before that. I think
and
he's safe. I mean,
he's
it
safe.
would be, and he's just obviously also coming off a season in which they are, can call themselves champions of Europe, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, well,
so I think he'll get a little more. And again, the upturn coincides with the return of like Lucas Paqueta. So I think they'll be fine. They've got a lot of
Deserbi,
threat from like Paqueta, Kudus, and Jared Bowen, who's having a spectacular season. Also, I
yeah,
think he'll be okay.
he'll be okay.
Um,
And I think he will, I mean, I don't know how the new format is going to be, but I think he could make it to Europa, right?
yeah,
They
yeah, I think they're in the hunt,
make it
for
to
sure,
Europa.
right? But
What's interesting to me is what has happened to Brighton, man. I mean,
hmm,
it's like losing left, right, center. They lost in Europa. They lost last weekend
yeah,
to Fulham 3-0. I mean, not like a
yeah,
small margin, right?
yeah, yeah.
And maybe Deserbi is looking.
No, I think there are some mitigating circumstances for that, right? We were having a little discussion earlier in the week. So I think like Brighton is so focused on kind of like young, having a young team and younger players. In fact, I think they're probably the youngest team in the Premiership. And I also saw another stat where apparently Brighton is the team with the highest number of minutes given to teenagers this season, right, in the Premier League. So which is very interesting. And plus, they had some big, for the established players who are again themselves not very, like, not much older, right, like Estupinian, Mitoma, Solly March, even in CISO, who were like
Yeah.
kind of really broke through last season, right, under De Zerbi. Uh, so big injuries, like, for a squad like Brighton, right? And even though they have like these promising youngsters who kind of come in behind them, they still need to like sort of learn and uh, kind of be good enough in the Premier League, at the Premier League standard, right? So I think there are some mitigating circumstances for them. I don't think De Zerbi's reputation will be harmed or something in any way, shape, or form after this season.
Not,
In fact, it's not. I think he's being
not.
linked to
Yeah.
much higher profile jobs like United and even Bayern, apparently. So yeah, I think he'll be fine. I think it's just the nature of the game, and that is what they kind of set out to do, right? As a team.
Where do you get all the stats, man? Dude, you're like, oh, for all our viewers, if you want stats, call Nav. Like, where do you get like number of minutes of young players and being
Oh man, like I said at the beginning, I'm a hopeless addict. I listen to all sorts of podcasts and read all sorts of articles. So
I,
yeah,
I didn't know about that stat, but yeah, I mean but I think Brighton is fighting with West Ham, of course, for Europa places, and
yeah,
I
yeah.
think it's going to be interesting. But it seems to me that well, we have Frank Lampard coming in there if De Zerbi leaves, but maybe return of Graham Potter, Uh,
Yeah. That could be some weird continuity in a way, right?
yeah.
But yeah, anyways, I think like yeah, it's going to be like the last 12 games, roughly like the last third of the season, right? Is going to be pretty interesting. And then yeah, let's should we move on to Europe? Good, some I guess good games in the Champions League, if not unexpected results. I think the big four that played their second legs this last week all are through. I think City is through, PSG is through, Madrid is through, and who else? Bayern. The
Fine,
story
fine.
after
There
like
was
being like under pressure, one goal behind from Lazio, from playing at
yeah,
Lazio and the return leg, they look good. I saw that game. They're very impressive.
that was unfortunately that was the only game I could watch during the week.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
yeah, man, I mean,
they're a super talented team,
no
right? Like,
surprises, right? I mean, the only surprise would have been Bayern not going through.
mhm.
But PSG we knew, Madrid we knew. I mean, City is City.
We kind of knew, but I
And
think the in terms of potential upsets, I think the Real Madrid Leipzig game was the closest that kind of
could have been a upset.
could have
Yeah,
been, either because it was 0-0 for a very
yeah,
long
yeah,
time. So it was like, hey, if Leipzig just scores,
yeah.
Madrid could be under pressure. They did score, and
Who?
then Madrid responded again. So it kind of came back. It was good that they scored immediately. But in terms of like possible upsets, I felt like that was the closest that came to a possible upset, because even PSG, like Mbappe was just, again, he's going to Madrid
Yeah, yeah.
apparently next season, and he had some tiff with Luis Enrique earlier in the week, but yeah, he doesn't care. He keeps scoring, and I mean his goals are spectacular. It was, um, this proper all-round player. He had the pace, he had the strength, he had like the technique. Brilliant.
Hey, so is he quickly on that? Is he going on free transfer to Madrid?
Yes, I think it's a free transfer. So
Jesus.
this was the protracted. Remember last season they had like this big thing, and then like the PSG chairman came out and said, "Oh, we will never let him go on a free,
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah.
etc." But I think ultimately what that did was just extend his contract by a year, and they're like, "All right, I won't go free this year, but next year I'll go free."
Change.
I think he's going on a free. Yeah.
That's
Uh,
a that's an amazing sign.
Hey, I think it's a sign of, with the superpowers, right? With or the super players, there's not much you can do if they want to like ride out their contract, right? And he knows, arguably, that he has to make his name in some other league that is
Yeah,
considered more like competitive and all that than the French league.
yeah, yeah.
Madrid, obviously, still, like, I think if you're a player, it's probably the biggest club in the world, right, to go and play for,
Totally.
arguably. And he knows that if he's coming on a free, he's going to get some crazy like sign-on bonus or some crazy incentives, money to join if the club can afford him.
Yeah.
Unless that club is Barcelona, he's gonna get a lot of money.
I-
So why not, man? He's and like the standard saying of player careers are only maybe like 10, 12 years. You got to maximize, make the most money you can. That's
I-
why people go to Saudi Arabia to play, right?
yeah, and we can have a whole episode about Saudi.
Yeah.
Then some of the players that I'm hearing about now is like Kevin De Bruyne been offered. Um, Bruno, I think I read somewhere Bruno been offered. Whatever, but let's not get into that. Just sticking to Champions League, who do you think will join? So I think Arsenal Porto is going to be interesting next
That's going
Tuesday.
to be a good game, but I think
That'll be a good
Arsenal are
game.
too strong at home. I think
Arsenal,
they'll go through. Yeah.
and they are playing at
It's
Emirates.
at the Emirates, right?
Yes,
So,
they're
yeah.
playing there.
Mhm.
Napoli Barcelona is on the edge, 1-1. So it's at
Both teams are having crappy seasons. So even if they like outdo each other, I expect them to lose in the next round,
yeah,
anyways. Right? Like Napoli is also on their third coach of the season.
Jesus.
And Barca is like, Xavi is like, I don't care. I'm going to just burn everything on my way
He's
out. Kind of.
he announced, right? He's
Yeah,
leaving.
yeah. He's leaving at the end of the season,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So,
I think
uh,
Dortmund will go through. They're
mhm,
playing playing home against PSV.
mhm.
And the earlier leg, it's at 1-1.
Yeah. And then Inter against
Yeah.
Atletico, I think Inter
Yeah.
will go through. So, and
Oh, you
Inter actually are a good team.
think Inter will go through?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Whoa. It's
They're a
at
great team. And
but it's
this
at
guy Simone
1-1.
Inzaghi is his specialty is cup competitions. So I think they're a goal down. Are they a goal down in
They go
the?
down.
Yeah, but I
No,
think they
no,
will.
wait. Yeah, they'll go down. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
zero.
So I think they will go through. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Let's see. I
So
think
that will be an interesting game. I think if I had to pick a game to watch, I think that one is the most interesting
yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah. That's a good one. I mean,
Right?
Arsenal Porto would be another.
Arsenal Porto is good. I mean, that's
Oh,
interesting just because Arsenal is down a goal. But
but and good thing is Arsenal Porto is Tuesday and Madrid
oh,
and
excellent. That's good
Wednesday.
news. Yeah.
Perfect.
So
Week
two
is
more days wasted.
exactly. The weekdays are set. So
Yeah.
moving on from there, let's let's talk a bit about what's happening with the overall manager situation everywhere,
Ooh,
basically.
yeah.
And I'd like to start off with my club.
No way. Really?
Oh, real? uh, so okay, maybe you should ask me a question about this because then I can get all.
Sure. Let me ask you the easiest question. Do you think Eric Ten Hag will be the manager next season?
No,
Wow. That's a big switch coming from you, Gulu.
no, no, it's not my switch. No, no, that's the thing. You, he will not be there because of what
I
is
see.
happening.
You would want him to be there, but you think,
I want him to be
I
there.
see. Okay.
Yes. So will he be there? I mean, if I could buy all the shares from Ratcliffe, I'll keep him.
Wow,
But
that's
it's
actually
not
a big
going.
thing. So let's explore that a little bit. So, what
Yeah.
are the maybe like in your words, right? What are the reasons to keep him, and what are the reasons to fire him?
Okay. Number one is if I look at the numbers, Ten Hag's numbers,
Hmm.
I think he is second to Fergie after Fergie. Basically, after Fergie, no other manager has come to the win rate. Um, Forget about the trophies. I mean, let's not. I mean, he won a Carabao Cup. That's all right. Forget about that. But in terms of the win rate, uh, goals, maybe not much, but still, he is the best among that. And at the end of the day, is if you look at Jose Mourinho, Louis van Gaal, David Moyes, Ole Gunnar, everyone, nobody. Now, interestingly, I was looking at Arteta, Klopp, and Pep. Now, Pep is in a different league, so I'm not comparing him to Pep.
Hmm.
Which, but if I look at Arteta's first season, 45, 46% win rate. Klopp was somewhere there and then came to 50s, and then his best season was 70% win rate. You know, he was winning left, right, center. Pep is consistently 70%, whatever. But if you just look at what the performance of team has been and what he has delivered, there's nothing that says that, oh wow, it's a bad performance. If I look at the last season, yes, now this season has been, if we just move to this season, whenever the team, if you take, when he had the luxury to select his best 11, the team has won, bearing maybe one or two at the most, I think. I do not want to talk about Champions League. Unfortunately, I don't know what really happened. But even in the case of the first best 11 selection, I think the team has won. They won 4 or 5 on a trot. Then, of course, the Fulham game came through, and City. So there is also this kind of a reaction from everywhere, right? And we start reading things here and there and tweets here and there. And then that kind of clouds the judgment about whether he's a good manager or not. But if I really look at the numbers, yes, he should carry on. Um, Another part of Eric Ten Hag, which I like, is young player coming through. Garnacho, Mainu, Forsen is coming through. Maybe somebody, I don't know who Kambala is. There's a second part. And the third part, which I like, uh, I would say that I like it and I don't like it. I mean, you and I spoke about this a lot, like this disciplinary kind of approach, the way he works around it. That's something which I would not go down that far, and washing the dirty laundry in public. But yes, you have to. I mean, you don't want, like, think about what was happening with Pogba and Lingard and everything. I mean, that all has to stop, man. And that's the part I like. Now, very quickly on what I do not like about Eric Ten Hag. Number one, I think he has to learn how to handle media and questions that are put to him. There was no need to get into this discussion about, oh, the Fulham fans, and on TikTok they posted about Bruno and he faked an injury during the game and all. Do not get dragged into that. Come on, be smart about it, right? And other kind of questions that are put onto him about Anthony, and he's like the best defender, nobody can stop him, and all that. Do not get into that. And then talking about disciplinary issues, about what happens in the dressing room, and then talking about that with the press. I do not like that part. The second one, which is probably the bigger one, I'm still not getting his playing style.
Yeah.
So that's the best way I would put it.
Yeah.
In conclusion, give him one more season, back him up in the summer transfer window, upcoming summer transfer window, and just please, as a club, I mean, hopefully the new management that has come in will probably handle this better than all the idiots that were there before. That's the
Fair
best.
enough. I think I have, yeah. My thought process on this is that I think he definitely overachieved last season. And so that's why I think that does a couple of things. I think because he overachieved last season, the kind of the decline in league position, at least this season, is coming under a bigger sort of magnifying glass, right? And had he not overachieved last season, he would be gone by now, I
Yeah.
think. So I think the one thing that is saving him, like you can imagine that, had he not won the Carabao Cup last season, had he not finished in the Champions League, let's say he finished like seventh last season, right? And now this season, again, United finished, say, sixth or seventh.
Yeah.
I think he's gone, especially given like the performances. So I think the thing that is saving him is like that, the overachievement in that first season.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I think, in terms of like, just to sort of close out, I mean, yeah, I can't disagree with some of the things you said, but I think it's also kind of, the media stuff is also, I think, maybe like a cultural thing in a way. Because in the Netherlands, I think the way you sort of answer questions and all that is, it's not as like tabloidy as it is here in,
Yeah.
in the UK, right? It's
Yeah.
probably like, hey, who's
Exactly.
injured, who's not injured?
Yeah.
Yes, discipline thing. Yes, we find it. Like, I think it's just a
Yeah.
cultural thing. So maybe that is like, so maybe he needs a little more tact, and he needs to have that sort of understanding.
Yeah.
And obviously English not being his like, first language doesn't help here.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's the thing. And then ultimately, I think it's also uh, at Ajax, like their tradition was like kind of bringing the young players through, right? That
Yeah.
was their, I mean, their academy, at least, I don't know how it is now, but even when Ten Hag was there, was brilliant, right? They had like all these incredible players,
Amazing
right? I
player.
mean, they had
Never
Onana, they
forget.
had Matthias de Ligt, they had
Yeah.
Frankie de Jong,
Yeah.
Hakim Ziyech,
Yeah.
they name it. They brought all these players
Oh,
through,
yes. Yeah.
which was incredible. And now here, maybe he was kind of hired to kind of do similar things at United, but
Yeah.
then United goes out and then decides to splash like 100 million on Anthony.
Yeah.
They decide to splash like another 80 million on Hoyland. So it's kind of it's almost, it's not Eric Ten Hag's fault, right? These are not Eric
See,
Ten Hag's faults,
yeah.
but it's kind of a schizophrenic approach in a way, right? A little bit.
You see, that's where the challenges are with the management, right? We have been talking about this. So tell me one. So Eric Ten Hag, Anthony, 100 million, right? Who made that deal? Who really went? I mean, if the manager says, "I want this player," right?
Mhm.
The management team has to figure out, the transfer team has to figure out the negotiations and everything. They have to do that. He's not going to get involved with it.
Yeah, yeah.
They,
That
they-
and that's
and
what I
then
meant.
yeah, and when United comes to, oh, everyone, oh yeah, it's he's 50 million, but you know what? We are going to slap another 50 million because it's United, let's go for it,
Yeah, the
so
United tax. Yeah.
exactly, it is there, right? But see who are there in the management. I mean,
Mhm.
how it was set up, we don't know the structure behind
Yeah,
it. And that actually consistently, time and again, we have seen it with all the previous managers after Fergie, same shit has happened.
yeah,
So what I'm hopeful about is that if there are there's a proper football management structure behind there, give this guy one more season, right? Let's just see, because this kind of a transformation, let's say if United wants to be the Ajax or how United Academy has been in the past and get
Mhm.
young players through, you cannot do that in 2 seasons, right?
Yeah, yeah. I
And
think
also,
this will be a pivotal, I think, transfer season.
and let's not even talk about Mount. Where is he? He has disappeared.
Yeah,
70 million
I
dollars.
don't know how many games he's played this season, but
Exactly.
it's not a lot.
And so these price tags are basically reflected on the manager because he's the face in
Mhm.
front of everyone.
Yeah,
Ed Woodward or this Chuck Arnold, whoever was there before, they don't come in front. And then everyone say, "Oh, why did you spend so much on this and that and that?" So that is the business that he's in. I know, but he has to be smart about taking questions and answering them.
yeah, that's true. But I think the only bad news for you on the management front is the new person, Dan Ashworth, is best friends with guess whom? Gareth Southgate.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that a bit. The rumors going around about Southgate
Yeah.
and oh well, but then this Jean-Claude, the other guy, he's not the CEO. He's kind of Ratcliffe's right hand or left hand, whatever. He's best friends with, not best friends, but he's quite good
Yeah.
friends with.
I mean, not best friend, that's exact, but apparently, like Ashworth was like the FA performance director when Southgate was appointed as the
Uh,
coach. So,
yeah,
anyways, let's move on. Let's see what happens.
but very, very quickly on that, I just want to quickly say something, right? So, look, you want to fire Ten Hag, but get somebody. I mean, talking about Thomas Frank and De Zerbi, yeah.
Start making friends with Zidane.
Get Karim Benzema for that matter.
Oh man, let's not go there.
Okay,
Anyway,
let's move
but
on.
I think
That
speaking of
was quick.
managers, yeah, other
I
like
think,
I think
I
Poch
think,
is also kind of going to
yeah.
be. Hey, you may get Poch next season. Who knows? It could be possible.
Oh,
He's clearly like kind of out of favor at or Tuchel. Both of them are like out of
nah,
favor.
nah.
But yeah, it'll be interesting. The other
Nagelsmann,
thing, instead of like in terms of new manager signings, I just heard that like Netflix has signed Jose Mourinho to a new documentary. Apparently, it's going to be about his years at United. Did you hear about this?
I just heard it from you, but I think it was just today morning I read somewhere, but I think it's just one
I
episode
heard in the
of
last 24
the.
hours. Yeah, yeah,
Oh, is it?
yeah.
Okay. Is it like a full documentary or is it one episode
No,
with?
they just announced like I don't think they have a
Ah,
release date either, but
okay.
I think something is in the works where they've probably sort of recorded it and created it. Now they have to figure out how to release it,
I
but
would love that, man.
apparently it's
Love-
coming to Netflix pretty soon, so that should be
I mean,
interesting.
I would love
Uh,
to have
yeah,
that.
but exciting times. Let's quickly maybe look ahead. Obviously, Liverpool versus City. Look ahead to the weekend. That's going to be a big one. I think
That's
Spurs
it. There's
versus
nothing
Villa.
else.
I think Spurs versus Villa is going to be the probably the
Yeah.
next most interesting one in terms of like the
Yeah.
battle for league positions. City versus Liverpool. What's your thoughts? Very quick.
City win. Oh,
Okay.
wait. Sorry, I'll take it back. It's at Anfield.
Okay.
I think it'll be a draw.
Okay. I think it's a City win, to be honest.
Oh, really?
Even
Okay.
though it's at Anfield, I think City is seemingly more in that groove now. Although like Liverpool does have Salah coming back. And
Szoboszlai is back.
Nunez, who scored some incredible goals in the
And,
Europa League,
and Szoboszlai is back.
and Soboslai is back. But
Yeah.
again, I think they're it's tough for I think like even these returning players to like just immediately like hit the ground 100% running and be at the top level. So I think it's going to be a little harder. Whereas like City is kind of already at that sort of well-oiled machine level. They haven't had significant injuries, so I feel like City will nick this one. So that's my
but
call. I don't know. I
cracker.
2-1. I think I'd call it a 2-1 to City.
Wow. Cracker of a game it'll be, man.
Oh
So
man, I can't wait. It's going to be fun.
I can only imagine the atmosphere at Anfield.
Yep, I
It'll
can't
be
wait for that one.
amazing, I
And
think.
even the Spurs Villa game should be fun. I
That's
mean, it won't be
fun.
as much of a
Yeah.
cracker. I don't think anything gets decided in this game, but it will be like a big boost for whoever wins the game. And this one is at Villa Park, so it's going to be harder for Spurs. And both of them, it's prepare your families for 4 hours of football watching on Sunday morning because both these games are like back to back.
Yeah.
So
And
that's going to be fun.
Your prediction for
For
that?
Spurs Villa, I think that one will be a draw.
Yeah.
I think it'll be. I expect it to be a 2-2. Yeah, I think Spurs is leaky enough to concede 2 goals, but I think the forwards are good enough to score 2 goals also. And I think Son and Werner. I think Werner's people gave him a lot of crap in the beginning, but 2 assists and 1 goal so far in like 6 Premier League games, 5 or 6 appearances in the Premier League, not bad. And that's 2 assists and 1 goal more than Anthony. So sorry, I had to throw that in there.
Okay,
but yeah,
sorry.
it's going to be fun.
Sorry, but I don't see you winning at Villa Park. I'm sorry. No, I'm not coming back on.
No, that's fine. I don't. It's a hard place to go. I think
it's a tough one. It's a
yeah.
tough one for Spurs. I think it'll
Yeah.
be Villa.
Mhm.
And as you said earlier, right, the defense and the offside trap. I still remember the game against United, but it'll be an awesome game.
It should
And
be a fun one. But again, I think the top 4 will ultimately come down to who scores more points in those 3 games against the top 3, because both these teams have to play the top 3. I think that will be the difference maker. Whoever can squeak a win or grab a draw or something, I think that will define. And who knows, given the sort of the new format, maybe both these teams will get into the Champions League. So
and the interesting one is Chelsea Newcastle but that's on Monday, I think.
Yeah, that's on Monday. So I think that's later in the week. That'll be fun. So a lot of I think this season is building up now to a good kind of crescendo, both here and in the Champions League. The knockouts are always fun. Like once you get into the knockouts of the Champions League,
it'll be fun. And I have 4:30 a.m. wake up call for
that's right,
Everton. So on that note, I think I'll be
good night. No. All right. Until next time.